Welcome into Cornhusker Connection. I'm Brandon Shanahan, joined as always by Tyler Sprinkle. Tyler, what a great week we have coming ahead of us. I feel like I say that every week, but this week I mean it just as well.
Let's get it. It's a big week for Nebraska. Um, Definitely the out of the remaining 3 games we have, this is the best shot to get to a bowl game. So I'm looking forward to it.
And you absolutely said it. It's on Peacock. Do you have a Peacock subscription yet?
No,
Or are you gonna just hop on a free trial?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a bummer. But also, if we do end up losing to Maryland, I don't want it. I don't want a lot of people to see it anyways. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Tickets as low as $8.
I always get those notifications. I think it's BS, but
Yeah, because it's like $8 and then $25 per ticket for fees, and
yep.
not quite the cost there, but nonetheless, a great weekend of college football lined up. Getting started, we got Michigan and Penn State. That's the big one. We'll see if Michigan has any kinks in the armor. After their first 9-10 bye weeks, they finally start their season this week, which will be nice. They're finally joining the party. Um, then a couple of big matchups as far as the Big 12 race goes, because that is getting very congested up top. Oklahoma State and Central Florida. Big win out in the Pac-12. Utah at Washington. We've seen Utah's defense win them football games. We got Michael Penix Jr. on the ropes. Who knows? That we talked about a messy playoff scenario the last go around. There's not a 0% chance that the Pac-12 gets 0 teams in, and that would be the formula. Is Washington losing this one
Yep. They cannibalize each other just like they do every year. That would
every
be
year?
sad.
Oh, it'd be so sad. And then another big one. I think the last ranked versus ranked matchup we get. Um, I also just noticed that Air
Ole
Force is
Miss,
still
Georgia.
ranked. Yeah, Ole Miss, Georgia. Surprised to see Air Force still ranked. Got blown
Yeah, they
out by
got
Army.
pooped on.
Yeah,
Yikes.
well, it should have been shut out. But all right, hey, you know what? Hats off to the troops. But yeah,
Yeah.
the other big one of Ole Miss at Georgia, which great. I'm excited to see what Ole Miss can do. Their offense has been fantastic. Their defense has been awful, but we'll see how that works. Hopefully, we see a lot of field goals down south. That's what I'm rooting for, first and foremost.
Every week until it hits.
Oh man. So let's see here. So let's just kind of jump into the Nebraska Maryland game. It's a big one. ESPN FPI has it as a 57% chance for Maryland, which feels fair. They're favored by 2.5. And Lincoln, which hurts, but is right. That seems like a good spot to be.
Yeah, I agree, especially if we don't make some changes. Um, I very much subscribe to the thought that I'm not sure we win another game if we don't change something, especially now that, I mean, if they didn't have it before, they have it now, the way to stop this already bad offense. So there needs to be something that changes, um, or else we're just not going to make a bowl game.
Yeah, I mean that's a scary thought, especially going into last week, 5-3. We're favored on the road, and then all of a sudden you're looking. I mean, we'll beat Iowa, so I wouldn't go that far with it, but 6 wins at this point would be would be a bummer, I'd say.
Yeah, I would like that monkey off our back so that way we can just go out there and just play.
Yeah, and this is the spot to do it. It is kind of nerve wracking because Tagovailoa is going to be outside of JJ McCarthy the best quarterback that we've seen all year, and you could probably even tell me that is the best quarterback that we've seen all year. Um, so I mean, we'll see the secondary get tested. I think they're up for the challenge. I think that they're built for a game like this. But I'd be lying if I said it doesn't worry me that we're not playing, the other quarterbacks in the Big Ten West.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one part of our defense that I'm not so sure about is our corner, our D back play. We've definitely seen them get kind of exposed a little bit this year. Um, I just hate that we give 10 yards every
Yeah.
every route. Like I hate that. I hate it. So if that might need to change this week. I'm gonna get diced up. I mean, the Broncos and Tua, it
Yeah.
might be a situation.
Oh my gosh. Oof. What a disaster. Football is funny though, because I was watching the Kansas City Chiefs go up 21-0 on the Dolphins this past weekend. And I'm like, well, the Broncos beat the Chiefs, but they lost by 50 to the Dolphins. So I'll tell you how that works.
It's a paradox effect.
But so, I mean, if I'm gonna sell you on Nebraska, I'm gonna sell you on Maryland's looked really, really bad the last 4 weeks. They
Yeah.
lose to Ohio State and Penn State big. You chalk those up as fair. But then also some pretty bad losses at home to Illinois, and then Northwestern by a touchdown a couple of weeks ago. Those are teams that Nebraska's beaten.
Yeah, I wish it was that simple, but it never is. It never is that simple. So I said it when it happened when they lost to Northwestern. I was like, that game should have been for Nebraska.
Yeah, that stinker.
So that makes me nervous that they had that before we got there, or they came here rather.
Yeah, because now they're probably gonna be a little bit more dialed in than they're coming in hot. It might even set them up for what's it called, a letdown game? I think that's what they call it. I know you're a big proponent of letdown games.
I don't
Um,
know what that is, but they're also fighting for their 6th win too. So this
and
is
that's
gonna
just
be it's gonna be a
yeah.
battle.
And that's just what I was going to mention is as well, because they got Michigan next week, so I'm assuming they wouldn't get their 6th win that week. And then Rutgers, they're 6-3. I
Yeah,
didn't believe that number when I first saw it, but that's not a cakewalk as it's been in years past. ESPN FPI gives them a 51% chance to win that, so they're probably looking at the same game in the same light that Nebraska is like. Well, this is going to be our best opportunity to win
yeah,
another game here to secure that 6th win.
yeah. It's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be pretty. It's gonna be a very nerve-wracking game. I'm assuming, but I think we have what it takes to beat the Terps.
I think so too. So let me just ask you this: what does the winning formula look like for the Huskers? What does this game have to look like? Who has to step up? Who needs to what needs to happen for Nebraska to get their 6th win of the season?
We need turnovers. We need to force some damn turnovers, which they come in waves for us. It seems this year.
Hmm.
So hopefully we have that wave playing Maryland, and I think we need to show some life in the passing game to allow the run game to get back on track. We need to stay on schedule every down, and yeah, just no turnovers. I mean, that's every week. It should be every week, no turnovers. But so we need to get turnovers. We need not to turn the ball over. We need to stay on schedule.
Yeah, I think so too. Because the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, just don't turn the football over. If you don't turn the football over, we're 8-1 probably. But that at this stage of the game, I think that's not in the cards. But you got the combat for that is, well, now we got to generate some turnovers to make up for the
Yeah,
turnovers that we're inevitably gonna hand up. A big thing that was disappointing to me last week was energy. I don't think that they came out very energized. Like I remember that Illinois game, fresh off of that big loss to Michigan, they were playing with their hair on fire. It felt
yeah,
like they were flying around. Their offense, they had that 99-yard drive early in the first quarter or in the first half. That was
and that
or
goal
not
line stand.
that goal line stand. They were making plays. Granted, they were coughing the ball up. It seemed like every other possession, but they were making plays. And this is a game where you got to make some plays. And I think this team's good at staying level with the peaks and valleys. They're not going to get, too. They're very used to making big mistakes at this point, unfortunately. But I think they're in a good spot as far as bounce back for that. But you got to make plays, and I think that there's got to be a way to set Harburg up for more success in the passing game than what we've seen. There's got to be something. I've seen him throw some good passes. I've seen him, but it's just it feels few and far between. And I feel like there's honestly sometimes where he throws such a good pass that it gets dropped. I'm not used to catching the football up here. This is new to me. But there's got to be a way to get him more efficient. And as you probably said, that part of that's probably just staying on schedule and staying ahead of the change.
Um, I'm gonna push back on you a little bit. When he has an open receiver, he tends to overthrow them due to his sidearm, or he just throws into coverage. Is what I see a lot from Harburg. Um, I mean, you're not always going to have a guy streaking down the middle of the field wide open. Um, and unless you can underthrow the ball to perfection, like we did against Northwestern, it's going to be hard to make some plays with his arm. I think getting him out of the pocket, I mean, I've said it multiple times, that's when he looks best throwing the ball. If you can roll him out of the pocket and give him one side of the field to look at, yeah, it makes it easier for the defense, but that's where he thrives, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Is that you just get him? It feels counterintuitive because I think coming into the season, the thing that excited us so much about this offense is our ability to go north south with this great set of running backs that we had, and um, what was an upgraded offensive line compared to last year. But I think the formula is getting to see moving side to side. And they've had some success running the option. I've seen him pitch the ball a few times the last couple of weeks, which is promising. But don't run the option to the short side of the field. That never works, and I'm tired of seeing it. I can't believe I keep seeing it on my television screen. Um, but yeah, getting him to roll out in the pockets, getting him in situations where maybe it's fine to use his sidearm action because I guess that's the only way he can throw a football. So there's got to be something other than just having him drop back and try to dice up in the middle of the field.
Yeah, and I would like to say, oh, just send somebody deep that started to work for us. But then you saw that throw that he had last week. Might have been the worst interception I've ever seen on a college football field. Just threw it right to that guy. I don't know how
Yeah,
else to explain it, but
that was awful.
um, but I think you start trying to trot out Purdy a little bit. Let's open the game. Let's just have Purdy run the first 10 plays. Like, let's see what
That'd be
happens.
cool.
And then if it doesn't work, then it's fine. Send Harburg back out there. But there needs to be something different because the defenses are just getting better as we go on the rest of the season. So if a 2-5 Michigan team, or what are they, 2-6, whatever they were, can figure out how to stop it, then these other teams that are far better can learn how to stop it as well.
Yeah, that's a great point because, and I mentioned this earlier this week, one of the big downsides with how poorly that Michigan State game went is that, well, now there's a very clear and obvious blueprint on how to further limit the Nebraska offense and how to further, put them in third and long situations and force them to drop back and pass. The way to combat that is throw out something new, and that's maybe in the form of Chuba Purdy. I'm absolutely on board with that. I'll be the first one to tweet how crazy it's going to be when he wins the Heisman Trophy this year, if we see him. So, or
And he
even
was
like a Jeff.
second. He was second on the depth chart for a reason. So
Yeah.
he's got to have some redeeming qualities to him.
Yeah,
Again,
and I
I
mean,
don't think Sims is the guy this year. I think you just keep him out the rest of the year. But you got to try something different.
yeah, because he also, and I mentioned with Jeff Sims, well, you throw him out with one more play, he burns his red shirt and feels like a whole wasted year for him. Whether that's for him or for us, it just feels like a shitty situation. And yeah, Chuba Purdy, the highest rated quarterback out of this room out of high school. There's got to be something there. So yeah, I'd be excited about that. I think it's a good move.
Got to try something. You can't just keep slamming your head into the wall, expecting something different to happen. So
It kind of feels like what this offense has gotten into. That's a good metaphor. It's just banging your head against the wall and hoping to get through eventually. And sometimes it works. Sometimes, Harburg
yeah,
will dart for a long run or find Malachi Coleman wide open down the field. But I don't think that's consistent enough to rely on when we need to win
yeah,
one of these last 3 games.
yeah. It's definitely not. You're not able to just hope and pray that something happens. Like you got to actually go out there and do something about it.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Well, next thing I wanted to kind of get into as I shift my 45 tabs around is our pick 'em from last week. Gonna be honest, Tyler, not our best week. Not
Mm,
yeah, not a great week here as we kind of dive into it. Let me see if I can zoom
mm.
in here a little bit. Whopping 3-7 week from Mr. No Show this week, Brooke Byrne. I'll ask you to put your eyes on it to make sure I got it right because 3-7 is startling.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
You got it all right.
Wow. I mean, what a week.
That's tough. And I would have been the exact same record as you if I didn't try to commit to the Brooke Burn bit and talk about Luther Burden in Missouri.
I
Imagine
mean,
he said that he wanted to switch. If I would have switched it, he would have been
yeah, I was
two
thinking,
and
I was like,
eight.
that's a good deal. No kidding. Holy smokes, you're right. Not only do you get a win, but he gets the loss. 2-8 would have been
Yeah.
crazy.
Jeez Louise. Hey, I'll hand up here. Iowa State was not the team I thought they were.
No, they didn't look very good. Which is crazy because I would expect if they didn't win, it wouldn't be because they didn't play their best game. Night game at home, blackout uniforms. Feels like you're just humming. And I got a buddy who was there at the game. He's like, this is top 2, top 3 best atmospheres I've ever been to pregame. Granted, the game ended up putting that down pretty quickly, but yeah, that was a bummer. I still feel fine with the pick, but overall, uh, that stinks. The one I'm so mad about is Notre Dame and how bad they were.
Hey, it helped out my college football pool bet that we have going
Oh,
because I
there
have
you go.
Clemson. Took them with my first overall pick, so
Oh
um,
man,
it's been a tough year for them. But I also have Oregon and Kansas, so
it's good
it
value.
works out. Yeah,
Good value. We were the only ones right about Oklahoma State. I mean, I guess we just know ball. It is what it is.
yeah.
And
Brooks certainly does not.
you were the only one bold enough to pick 2 touchdown favorite Texas at home.
Yeah,
That feels like a
I
miss.
mean, they tried. They tried to lose. They
Yeah.
tried so hard to lose that game.
Let's see. We all got Louisville right. I was really rooting for that to be a good game. I would have loved Virginia Tech to find a way to pull it off and get to the ACC championship game with 7 wins, but thwarted that one pretty quickly. Um, Also, hand up, we should have lost the Ole Miss game, so I'm bitter
Oh
about.
yeah, last second touchdown, right?
Well, and a missed field goal at the end by Texas A&M, which not only
Oh.
would have been their first field goal of the game that advances me into the afternoon games in that bet, but yeah, then it goes into overtime. So a win's a win, but man, that's a bummer.
That is a bummer.
But
Mm.
overall, I think so. We'll do our pick 'em later on this week, but I did just kind of want to highlight as quickly as possible what a disastrous week for Mr. Brookburn there.
That's tough. You hate to see that for my old friend Brooke.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mourning him, thinking about him. I mean, he does still lead the season record, so
Dude,
he's got some. But you're
I'm
you're long,
close.
yeah.
I'm close.
You're
You
coming
better
up just.
figure it out before I get to him.
But a great week that I kind of wanted to dive into here. So we kind of went over tease that slate. Which one of these games are you the most excited about outside of, the outstanding product that I'm sure we're going to get for Nebraska, Maryland?
I'm really excited to watch Ole Miss in Georgia just because of the what I threw out there on this other episode that we had this week of the Big Ten versus Pac-12 college football playoff.
Yeah.
So now down with everybody except for Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, and Oregon. So,
yeah, that's a crazy
and plus,
scenario.
it should be a good game. You'd think it would be a good game to watch. Ole Miss, Georgia, probably their one and only test this year. And let's see if Lane Kiffin can finally put something together late in the season.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's what Nebraska was with Bo Pelini. Like he wins all the games that he's supposed to, but like just one time, pull a rabbit out of the hat. This is the spot for it for sure. Let's see here, just a murderer's row. Michigan, Penn State. I don't know if I'd say I'm looking forward to that the most, but I'm definitely very, very intrigued to see how it plays out.
It has shades of Ohio State, Penn State.
I could see
it's going to be kind of a gritty game, and then Michigan's going to pull away with it.
I could see that. On the road at Penn State, that's not nothing.
And that should be a night game. That should be a whiteout. But here we are.
Yeah, that is a bummer. Was the Ohio State game a night game? No,
but that was at Ohio State. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, I get it. You gotta put your best foot forward on these networks, but man, come on.
They just blow everything every damn time.
And I'm looking at the prime time. Well, I guess there's USC and Oregon. So that's 9:30. That's not prime time. The Fox 6 p.m. game is West Virginia, Oklahoma. On ESPN, it's Georgia, Ole Miss. On ABC, it's TCU, Texas. So you could absolutely still have that be a primetime game and get the number one type eyeballs that you're getting by bringing it down to an 11 a.m. kickoff. But
I don't make the rules.
Yeah, that's part of the deal. So what happens when folks who don't like college football are making decisions for college football?
Yep.
USC Oregon, I think, will be interesting. Again, I don't know if I'm excited to watch that as much, but I'm curious to see how Oregon handles that, if they run away with it late.
Dude, talk about a gauntlet that USC's gone through.
Yeah, man. And that's
Utah. Who was the other game they played?
So it started at Notre Dame, home the next week against Utah, at Cal versus Washington, at Oregon, and then UCLA to wrap up their schedule.
Jesus.
And they also they don't get a bye until the end of the season. So it'll be 9 straight games for them, including that gauntlet there.
That's tough. That is really tough.
Schedule makers did not do them any favors.
That's a hard ship to go through. I mean, geez Louise.
Because preseason, I predicted them to have 3 losses, but even I didn't anticipate it would be this early in the process. I figured they would have picked up a couple of those wins, but oh well. So that'll be interesting. I just don't know what to make of USC, and I feel like this will give me some clarity in that realm.
I mean, this could definitely be a game that USC F's around and beats Oregon. I mean, it would be very fitting.
Yeah.
They're not a bad team. No. They're just a very one-sided team.
Mm-hmm. Another game I'll have my eyes on for sure is Miami and Florida State, because as with a Big Ten Pac-12 playoff, Florida State's got to go down. Miami's not a bad ball team.
I need Florida State to lose so bad.
Yeah, for a couple of different agendas.
It would fit my narrative so well. Oh, it would be great.
Oh man, another game personally I'll be dialed in for is Auburn and Arkansas, because I tweeted out all Power 5 predictions for all Power 5 teams, and I got pushed back on 2 of them. One was Mississippi State, which I'm currently 8 for 9, by the way. Fuck those guys. And then Auburn, who I'm currently 9 for 9 on. So cruising in the SEC. But I do have Arkansas beating Auburn, which admittedly I don't feel great about. So woo pig suey all day here. And then Auburn plays they play New Mexico State, which I chalked up as a win, and then at Alabama, which I feel is a pretty good loss. But pushing for the agenda. We need Auburn to win
Yeah.
that game.
Yes, we need it real bad.
And it's not crazy because it's crazy because it's not all that crazy. Like
Yeah.
Alabama losing to Auburn is very reasonable. Florida State losing to Miami is very reasonable. Texas is going to get night games in Fort Worth this week and in Ames next week. Them losing one of those games isn't crazy. Like, this is not like when I'm putting together scenarios for like Nebraska to get to the Big Ten championship game. It's not like we need this and this and this. Like, those aren't unreasonable
Yeah.
items to check off.
Just need a few things to go that way. Like there's not a whole laundry list of stuff that needs to happen.
Right. Like, we're not asking like Alabama to lose to whatever cupcake they'll have before Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
We're not asking them to lose to Chattanooga. At Auburn, new coach, maybe they're starting to click late.
Maybe.
Then to go beat Georgia. That's it. I mean, that's the path. 2 Big Ten teams, 2 Pac-12 teams.
So what happens if, like, let's say Georgia loses this week against Ole Miss, and then they come back and beat Alabama in the SEC title game? Then what happens?
I think I would look at them as should be the last one-loss Power 5 champion to get in, other than the ACC. If Florida State loses, I'd still take Georgia over them, but I would take, I think I'd even take Texas over them as a one-loss Power 5 champ. Definitely Oregon. Definitely Oregon. If Washington were to slip, definitely Washington. If Michigan loses this week and beats Ohio State, definitely them. But I don't think the committee will look at it the same way.
Yeah.
I think that the SEC championship cachet will carry them in. But don't think a 2-loss Alabama team, which we're not that far off from, I don't think that would carry enough weight to get over, a 1-loss Ohio State team with 2 top 15 wins, or a 1-loss Washington team who beat every team on their schedule. But man, that is best case scenario. The more that I think about it, the more I fucking love it. And especially just like what a middle finger. First of all, from the Pac-12. You guys talk about how we don't make the playoff. We're gonna have half the playoff this year, and then a middle finger to this 4-team college football playoff. Just like we couldn't even get 3 conferences in. Outstanding stuff. Some other news kind of around the Big Ten. Looks like the Big Ten informed Michigan it might face disciplinary action, which I don't even kind of know what that means.
Yeah. It's probably going to be nothing. It'll take a couple years, and then they'll be like, oh, you lose 5 scholarships.
Yeah, and Jim Harbaugh's already, in Las Vegas coaching the Raiders at this point.
Yeah, I don't like to hear you say that. That's for sure.
I mean, it's either that or he's with the Chargers, I think.
The Bears.
The Bears is the best case scenario. You're absolutely right. That's a good agenda. That's a good agenda to push.
Because I don't think anybody, unless you're like a Packers fan or a Vikings fan, I don't think really anybody hates the Bears. But I guess I don't think anybody really hates the Chargers either.
Yeah, the Chargers is a very neutral team in the same way. But I'd even say, the Chargers kind of fall in the same boat. Even like the Packers and the Vikings, I don't know what it's like up there, but I got to imagine it's not a heated hasn't kind of a lot of apathy, I'd imagine.
especially as of late.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, I guess maybe back in our like baby days, Bears Packers had a little bit more cachet to it.
Yeah. So that would be best case scenario for me, at least. Him going to the Bears.
Yeah, that's a good call. Keep them out of here. Yeah, then the Broncos can still have the best coach in the division, so I'll chalk that up as a win. Well, I'll settle down there. I'll settle down. I'm getting a little too excited now that we don't have our Chiefs homer on the podcast. Well, perfect. That's all I had for the week. A big week for Nebraska. Big week for college football. Big week for our newfound agenda. So outstanding stuff. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.